Daniel Carter opened his eyes and saw nothing but darkness. His head hurt badly. His arms were heavy, and when he tried to move them, he heard the sound of chains. He was a prisoner. Slowly, his eyes adjusted to the dim light. He was in a cell, but it was not like any prison he had ever seen. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that glowed with a soft purple light. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with metal. Through a small window shaped like a teardrop, he could see a violet sky with 2 moons hanging in it. This was not Earth. Daniel tried to remember what had happened. His squad had been on a mission. They were checking an alien moon for enemy activity. Then everything went wrong. Lights in the sky, weapons firing, screaming. He remembered Commander Lucas Grant pushing him toward an escape pod. Then nothing. Now he was here, on an alien world, alone. The door to his cell opened with a soft hiss. 2 guards walked in. They were tall, much taller than humans. Their skin was black like polished stone, and their eyes glowed with an amber light. They were Valari, the aliens that humanity had been fighting for years. The guards did not speak. They grabbed Daniel by his chains and pulled him to his feet. He tried to resist, but he was too weak. They dragged him down a long hallway made of the same glowing crystal. For the next 3 weeks, Daniel learned what it meant to be a Valari prisoner. Every day, they took him to a room and asked him questions. They wanted to know about Earth, about the human fleet, about weapons and defenses. Daniel told them nothing. This was not because he was brave. He was just a sergeant. He knew nothing important. But he would not tell them even the small things he did know. The Valari did not like his silence. They had ways of making prisoners talk. Daniel learned about pain in those weeks. He learned how much a body could hurt and still keep breathing. But he did not break. He kept his mouth shut and waited for death. Death did not come. On the 22nd day, the guards took him somewhere new. Instead of the interrogation room, they brought him to a massive hall. It was bigger than anything Daniel had ever seen. The ceiling was so high he could barely see it. Thousands of lights floated in the air like stars. At the end of the hall was a throne made of black crystal. On it sat an old Valari female. She wore robes of deep purple, and a crown of silver metal rested on her head. Her eyes glowed brighter than any Valari Daniel had seen before. This was Queen Sinareth, ruler of the Valari Empire. Next to her stood a younger Valari female. She was tall and strong, with the body of a warrior. Her eyes burned with anger as she looked at Daniel. This was Princess Kalis, the heir to the throne. The guards forced Daniel to his knees before the queen. "Human," the queen said. Her voice was cold and powerful. A device around Daniel's neck translated her words into English. "You have been in our prisons for 3 weeks. My people have questioned you every day. Yet you have told them nothing." Daniel did not answer. "This is either because you are very loyal to your people," the queen continued, "or because you know nothing worth telling. I believe it is the second one." Still, Daniel said nothing. The queen stood up slowly. She walked down the steps of her throne until she was standing right in front of him. Up close, Daniel could see that she was very old. Lines covered her face, and her movements were careful and slow. "I have a problem, human," she said. "My empire is dying. Not from war, not from disease, from something inside our own blood. The royal bloodline is failing. Each generation is weaker than the one before. My daughter is the last heir, and even she carries the sickness in her body." Daniel listened but did not understand why she was telling him this. "Our scientists have studied your species," the queen said. "Humans are interesting. Your bodies are simple, but they are strong. Your blood repairs itself in ways ours cannot. You adapt to things that would kill other species." Now Daniel began to understand. A cold feeling spread through his chest. "You want my blood," he said. I want more than that." The queen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I want you to marry my daughter. I want you to be her husband and give her children. Children who will carry both our bloodlines and save my empire." The hall went completely silent. Daniel looked at Princess Kellis. Her face was twisted with disgust and anger. She clearly hated this idea as much as he did. "And if I say no?" Daniel asked. "Then you will go back to your cell," the queen said simply. "You will stay there until you die. Your people will never find you. Your body will rot on this world, and no one will remember your name." She turned and walked back toward her throne. "But if you say yes, things will be different. You will live in my palace. You will have food, comfort, and freedom to move within these walls. And when the war ends, you may even go home to Earth, a hero who brought peace between our peoples." Daniel's mind was racing. This was crazy. He was a soldier, not a prince. He did not want to marry an alien princess who wanted him dead, but he also did not want to die alone in a cell. "How long do I have to decide?" he asked. "Until tomorrow night when the third moon rises. Choose wisely, human." The guards grabbed Daniel and pulled him away. As the great doors closed behind him, he looked back one last time. Princess Kellis was watching him. Her eyes still burned with anger, but there was something else there too. Something he could not name. Daniel spent that night staring at the ceiling of his cell. He thought about Earth, about his family, about everything he would never see again if he stayed a prisoner. When the third moon rose the next night, he gave his answer. He would marry the princess. There was no other choice. The news traveled fast through the palace. The human prisoner was going to marry Princess Kellis. Everyone was talking about it. Some Valari nobles were angry. They said it was disgusting. They said a human was no better than an animal. Others were confused. They could not understand why the queen would allow such a thing. Princess Kellis did not talk to anyone about it. Instead, she went to the training room and destroyed everything she could find. She broke 3 practice robots. She nearly killed her fighting instructor. She screamed and punched and kicked until her body could not move anymore. Then she went to find the human. Daniel was in the palace gardens. After accepting the queen's offer, he had been moved from his cell to a small room in the palace. He was still watched by guards at all times, but at least he could walk around. The gardens were beautiful and strange. The plants glowed with soft lights. The flowers had colors he had never seen on Earth. He was looking at one flower when Kellis found him. It had 6 petals, each one a different shade of blue. "You should not have said yes," Kellis said. Her voice was cold and hard. Daniel did not look up. "Would you have preferred I died in my cell?" "I would have preferred you died in the ambush with the rest of your people." Daniel finally turned to face her. "That is a lovely thing to say to your future husband." Kellis walked around him slowly, like a hunter looking at prey. "You think this is funny? You think this is some kind of game?" "I think I had 2 choices," Daniel said calmly. "Die alone in a cell, or accept your mother's offer. I chose to live. I'm sorry if that upsets you. You understand nothing." Kellis stopped in front of him. Her amber eyes burned with anger. "You think you are free now? You are not free. You are just in a different cage. You will be watched every moment. You will be tested. And if you cannot give my mother what she wants, you will be thrown away like garbage. Then I will try very hard not to disappoint her." Kellis stared at him. She was surprised by his calm voice. She had expected him to be afraid. She had expected him to beg or cry. But this human just stood there and talked to her like they were equals. "You are either very brave or very stupid," she said. "Probably both," Daniel admitted. "But I have survived bad situations before. I will survive this one too. How can you be so sure?" "I'm not sure of anything." But giving up is not something humans do well. We keep fighting even when there is no hope. It is probably our biggest strength and our biggest weakness. Callus was quiet for a moment. She had studied humans before. She knew their history. They were a young species, only a few thousand years old. They had no great technology. They had no special powers. Yet they had spread across their star system and were now fighting against the Volari Empire. Maybe there was something to what this human said. "The wedding will happen in 30 days, Callus said finally. "Before then, you must learn our ways, our language, our customs. You will make many mistakes. My people will laugh at you. They will insult you. I can handle insults. Can you?" Callus moved closer. "You do not know what my people can be like. We are not kind to those we see as lesser beings. And that is exactly what you are to them. A lesser being." Daniel did not step back. He met her eyes without fear. "Then I will prove them wrong." Something changed in Callus's face. The anger was still there, but there was something else now. A tiny spark of interest. This human was different from what she expected. "The flower you were looking at," she said, pointing at the blue petals. "It is called a velethorn. It only blooms in complete darkness. Most people think it is worthless because it cannot survive in light. What do you think?" Daniel asked. Callus looked at the flower, then back at him. "I think there is beauty in things that survive where they should not." She turned and walked away without another word. Daniel watched her go. She was proud and angry and dangerous. But underneath all that, he saw something else. She was scared, just like him. This marriage was not her choice either. They were both trapped by the Queen's plan. Maybe that was something they could share. The next 30 days were the hardest of Daniel's life. Every day, teachers came to his room. They taught him the Volari language. They taught him how to bow, how to walk. Everything was different. The Volari had rules for everything. The wrong word could be an insult. The wrong gesture could start a fight. Daniel made mistakes constantly. When he tried to greet a noble in the hallway, he used the wrong words and accidentally called the man's mother a farm animal. When he tried to eat at a formal dinner, he used the wrong hand and shocked everyone at the table. But he did not give up. Every time he failed, he got up and tried again. The teachers were harsh, but they noticed something about the human. He never complained. He never made excuses. He just worked harder. Some of the palace servants started to respect him. They saw how hard he was trying. They saw that he did not look down on them the way other nobles did. He said please and thank you. He asked about their lives and their families. Word spread quietly through the lower levels of the palace. The human was not what they expected. Callus heard these whispers. At first, she ignored them. But then she started watching Daniel more carefully. She saw him fall and get back up. She saw him face mockery with a calm smile. She saw him treat everyone with respect, from the highest noble to the lowest servant. One night, she found him in the library. He was surrounded by old books, trying to read words he barely understood. "You cannot read our ancient writing," she said. "I am learning," Daniel replied without looking up. "One of your scholars is teaching me. Why would any scholar waste time on you?" I traded stories with him. He wanted to know about Earth, about human history. Callus sat down across from him. It was the first time she had done something like this. What could our history possibly interest him? Everything. Daniel finally met her eyes. Our wars. Our discoveries. Our mistakes. He said humans are the most interesting species he has ever studied. We have done terrible things to each other, but we have also done amazing things. We have survived things that should have destroyed us. And you think that makes you special? I think it makes us stubborn. Daniel smiled slightly. We do not know when to quit. Even when everything is against us, we keep going. Maybe that is stupid, but it is who we are. Callus looked at him for a long time. The anger in her eyes was fading. In its place was something new, something that might become respect. "You are strange, Daniel Carter." It was the first time she had used his full name. It felt important somehow. "I have been called worse," Daniel said, and for the first time since they met, Callus almost smiled. The wedding day arrived. Daniel stood in a hall filled with 10,000 Volari. They had come from every corner of the Empire to see this strange event. A human marrying their princess. It had never happened before. It would probably never happen again. He wore Volari wedding clothes. They were heavy and uncomfortable, made of dark fabric that seemed to absorb light. He had practiced the ceremony 100 times, but his heart was still beating fast. Callus walked toward him from the other end of the hall. She was beautiful in a terrifying way. Her wedding dress was made of silver threads that glowed like starlight. Her black skin shone under the lights. Her amber eyes were fixed straight ahead. The ceremony was long and complicated. Daniel spoke words he had memorized in a language that still felt strange on his tongue. He made small mistakes. Some people in the crowd laughed, but he kept going. The hardest part came at the end. The Volari had a special ritual for royal weddings. It was called the binding. Both people had to press their hands against a glowing crystal. The crystal would send energy through their bodies, linking them together forever. No one had warned Daniel how much it would hurt. The moment his hands touched the crystal, fire exploded through his veins. He wanted to scream, but he bit his tongue and stayed silent. The pain lasted only a few seconds, but it felt like hours. When it was over, he looked at his hands. Strange patterns had been burned into his skin. They glowed with soft light, just like Volari eyes. He would carry these marks forever. "It is done," the priest announced. "They are bound." The crowd was silent. No one cheered. No one clapped. They just watched as Daniel and Callus turned to face them as husband and wife. That night, they sat in their new chambers without speaking. The silence was heavy and awkward. "Your hands," Callus finally said. "Do they hurt?" Daniel looked at the glowing marks. "A little. It is getting better. The marks will never fade. You will carry them for the rest of your life. I know." More silence. "This does not change anything," Callus said. Her voice was hard, but not as hard as before. "We are married in name only. I did not choose this." "Neither did I," Daniel replied. "But here we are. Maybe we can make the best of it." "Make the best of it?" Callus stood up angrily. "You do not understand. My people will never accept you. They will never see you as anything but a primitive creature. Then I will prove them wrong." "You keep saying that. But words are easy. Actions are hard." Daniel looked at her calmly. "Then watch my actions." The months that followed were difficult. Daniel was an outsider in a world that did not want him. Noble families plotted against him. Generals mocked him. Servants whispered behind his back. But slowly, things began to change. It started with a challenge. A Volari general named quHFY did not like the idea of a human living in the palace. He thought Daniel was weak and worthless. One day, he challenged Daniel to a training fight in front of everyone. "Let us see what humans are made of," quHFY said with a cruel smile. Daniel knew he could not win. Volari were stronger and faster than humans. But he also knew he could not refuse. The fight was short and brutal. quHFY hit Daniel again and again. He knocked him down to the ground. He laughed and invited the crowd to laugh with him, but Daniel kept getting up. Every time he fell, he stood again. His nose was broken. His ribs were cracked. Blood covered his face. But he would not stay down. "Yield," quHFY ordered. "No," Daniel said through bloody teeth. quHFY hit him again. Daniel fell, and then he got up again. This went on for almost an hour. By the end, even quHFY was tired. Daniel could barely stand. His body was broken in a dozen places, but he was still on his feet. Yield, quHFY said again, but this time his voice was different. There was something like respect in it. No, Daniel whispered. quHFY stared at him for a long moment. Then he lowered his fists. Enough, the general said. I have seen what I needed to see. He walked away without another word. But from that day forward, he never mocked Daniel again. And when others tried to mock the human, quHFY told them to be silent. Word spread through the palace. The human had lost the fight, but he had also won something. He had shown that humans did not give up easily. Other chances came to prove himself. A noble family's child became sick with a rare disease. Valari doctors could not cure her. Daniel remembered a similar sickness from Earth. He suggested a treatment that humans used. The doctors were skeptical, but they tried it. The child recovered. The noble family was grateful beyond words. They had hated Daniel before. Now they owed him the life of their daughter. In Valari culture, this was the strongest possible bond. More stories spread. The human was not stupid. He was not weak. He was different, but different was not always bad. quHFY watched all of this happen. She had expected Daniel to fail. She had expected him to give up and prove that humans were worthless. Instead, he did the opposite. He earned respect through blood and sweat and stubborn refusal to quit. One evening, she found him in the library again. This time, she did not stand at the door. She sat down beside him. The noble family sent you a gift, she said. A rare crystal from their home world. I saw it, Daniel replied. It was very beautiful. You saved their daughter. I just suggested an idea. The doctors did the real work. quHFY shook her head. You are strange. Any Valari would take full credit for such a thing. But you give the credit to others. Where I come from, we have a saying. A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle. quHFY thought about this. My mother believes your people can save our bloodline, she said quietly. I thought she was foolish. I thought humans were primitive and worthless. But now I am not sure. Daniel turned to look at her. What do you think now? I think maybe my people and your people are not so different. We both survive. We both fight. We both refuse to disappear. She reached out and touched the glowing marks on his hand. It was the first time she had touched him gently. Maybe, she said softly. This marriage does not have to be a cage. Daniel covered her hand with his own. Maybe not, he agreed. Outside the window, the twin moons rose over the palace. And for the first time since he arrived on this alien world, Daniel felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. The peace did not last. Daniel had been married to quHFY for 6 months. Things were getting better between them. They talked every night. They shared meals together. Sometimes, quHFY even smiled at his jokes. Then the war came back. It happened suddenly. Daniel was sleeping when quHFY burst into their chambers. Her face was twisted with anger and fear. Wake up, she said. Something terrible has happened. Daniel sat up quickly. What is wrong? Your people. Your fleet. They have attacked us. The words hit Daniel like a punch to the stomach. What? 3 border stations destroyed. Thousands of my people are dead. Your human ships came without warning and attacked. Daniel jumped out of bed. That is impossible. I have been here for almost a year. How could they attack? quHFY grabbed his arm. Her grip was strong enough to leave bruises. Did you know about this? Were you a spy? Did you come here to make us lower our guard while your fleet prepared for war? No, Daniel pulled away from her. I swear to you, I knew nothing. I am just a sergeant. I did not know any attack was planned. quHFY searched his face. She wanted to believe him. Over the past months, she had learned to read his expressions. She could tell when he was lying. And right now, she saw only shock and confusion. Then your people have gone mad, she said. Let me talk to them. Let me find out what happened. It is too late for talking. The Queen has already sent our fleet to respond. War has begun. The following weeks were terrible. Daniel watched from the palace as news of battles arrived every day. Human ships and Valari ships were destroying each other across the galaxy. Millions were dying on both sides. Planets were burning. He tried to understand why this was happening. Eventually, he learned the truth. Admiral Patricia Cole, the leader of Earth's fleet, believed Daniel was dead. She thought the Valari had killed him along with his entire squad. She convinced the Earth Council that the Valari were too dangerous, that humanity needed to strike first before the aliens could destroy them. So the fleet attacked. Not to rescue Daniel, not to negotiate, just to kill. Daniel felt sick when he heard this. His own people were fighting a war based on a lie. He was alive. He could stop this. But no one on Earth knew. He went to Queen Cinerith with a request. Let me talk to them, he begged. Let me contact Admiral Cole. I can tell her I'm alive. I can explain everything. The Queen looked at him with cold eyes. And tell them what, human? That you married my daughter? That you chose us over your own kind? They will think you are a traitor. Maybe. But they will also know I am alive. They will know this war started because of a mistake. The war has already claimed thousands of my people. A mistake does not bring them back. No, but it can stop more from dying. The Queen was silent for a long time. Finally, she nodded. Very well. You may try. But if you fail, there will be no second chance. The communication was set up in the throne room. A giant screen showed the face of Admiral Patricia Cole. She was an older woman with gray hair and hard eyes. Behind her, Daniel could see the bridge of her flagship. When she saw Daniel, her face went white. Sergeant Carter, she whispered. You are alive. Yes, Admiral. I am alive. We were told your entire squad was killed. They were killed. I was captured, but I survived. Admiral Cole's expression changed as she studied him. She noticed his Valari clothes, the glowing marks on his hands, the alien princess standing behind him. What have they done to you? She asked. They have done nothing to me. I married Princess Kellis. It was my choice. Your choice? Or did they force you? Daniel took a deep breath. It was complicated, but I stayed because I wanted to. Admiral, you need to stop this war. Stop. Cole's voice turned hard. After what they did to our people? What did they do? They captured me. They did not kill me. The attack on your fleet was a response to your attack on their stations. You struck first, Admiral, because we believed you were dead. I understand, but I am not dead. And this war is killing millions of people for no reason. The Admiral was quiet. Daniel could see her thinking, weighing her options. What do you expect me to do? She finally asked. Just stop fighting? Tell the council we made a mistake? Yes, exactly that. Do you have any idea what that would mean? I would lose my command. The council would be embarrassed. People would demand answers. People would also stop dying, Daniel said firmly. Admiral, I have lived among the Valari for almost a year. They are not monsters. They are people. They have families and dreams and fears, just like us. This war does not have to happen. And what do you suggest instead? Daniel looked back at Telis, then at the Queen. Then he faced the screen again. Peace, Real peace. The Valari have technology we need. We have something they need too. Instead of destroying each other, we could help each other. Help each other? Admiral Cole laughed bitterly. They are our enemies. They do not have to be. I was their prisoner. I became their ally. If I can change, so can both our peoples. The argument continued for hours. Daniel spoke until his voice was raw. He told them about his time in captivity, about the Queen's dying bloodline, about how humans might be able to save the Valari from extinction. Admiral Cole was resistant. The council members who joined the call were hostile. But Daniel did not give up. Finally, after what felt like forever, Admiral Cole raised her hand. Enough, she said. I will present your proposal to the council. I make no promises, but I will ask them to consider a ceasefire. That is all I ask. The screen went dark. Daniel collapsed into a chair. He was exhausted in ways he could not describe. Callus came to his side and took his hand. You did well, she said softly. I do not know if it was enough. It was more than anyone expected. You stood before your own leaders and told them they were wrong. That takes courage. Daniel looked at her. In her amber eyes, he saw something he had hoped for but never expected. Admiration, maybe even love. I meant what I said, he told her. About our peoples helping each other. About peace. I know you did. Do you believe it can happen? Callus squeezed his hand. I believe that if anyone can make it happen, it is you. 3 days later, Admiral Cole contacted them again. The council had agreed to a ceasefire. Negotiations would begin. When Daniel heard the news, he felt tears running down his face. He had not cried since he was a child. But now he could not stop. Callus held him close and let him cry. You saved millions of lives today, she whispered. We saved them, Daniel corrected her. Together. She kissed him then. It was not a kiss of duty or obligation. It was a kiss of choice. A kiss of love. Outside the palace, the twin moons shone down on a galaxy that had just stepped back from the edge of destruction. Hope was alive. And Daniel Carter. The prisoner who became a prince had made it possible. 1 year had passed since Daniel Carter arrived on Valarith as a prisoner. Now he stood in the great hall of the palace, not in chains, but in the finest clothes the Valari could make. Beside him was Callus, his wife, his partner, his love. Before them stood thousands of people, both Valari and human. Today was the day the peace treaty would be signed. Admiral Patricia Cole was there, standing stiffly in her uniform. She had come in person to sign the agreement. Behind her were dozens of human officials and military officers. They looked uncomfortable surrounded by so many aliens, but they were there. Queen Cinerith sat on her throne, watching everything with her ancient eyes. She had lived long enough to see many things, but she had never seen anything like this. Two species that had been trying to kill each other were about to become allies. Daniel stepped forward to speak. Every eye in the hall turned to him. 1 year ago, he began, his voice echoing through the great space. I was brought to this world in chains. I was a prisoner. I had no hope. I thought I would die alone in a cell, forgotten by everyone. He paused and looked at the faces before him. Human and Valari. Two species. One audience. But something happened that I never expected. I was given a choice. Not an easy choice. Not a fair choice. But a choice that changed everything. He reached out and took Callus's hand. She squeezed back. I married Princess Callus. At first, we were strangers. We did not like each other. We came from different worlds with different ways. But we learned. We grew. We found that beneath all our differences, we wanted the same things. Safety, peace, a future for our peoples. Admiral Cole was watching him with a complicated expression. Daniel had once served under her command. Now he was standing beside an alien princess, speaking about peace with the enemy. Humans have a saying, Daniel continued. We say that the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. This past year has been fire for all of us. War, death, pain. But from that fire, something new has been created. Something stronger than either of us could have made alone. He turned to face the queen. Your Majesty, your people have technology that could help humanity reach new stars. Medicine that could cure diseases we have fought for centuries. Knowledge that took you thousands of years to gather. Then he turned to Admiral Cole. Admiral, humans have something the Valari need just as badly. Genetic diversity. The ability to adapt and change. The stubborn refusal to give up even when everything seems lost. These are not just human traits. They are gifts we can share. He looked out at the crowd one more time. Today, we are not just ending a war. We are starting something new. A partnership between two peoples who chose to see each other as allies instead of enemies. This is not the end of our story. It is the beginning. Daniel stepped back. Kalish stepped forward. She was nervous, though she hid it well. Speaking to crowds was something she had done her whole life. But this was different. This time, she was speaking not just as a princess, but as a bridge between two worlds. My people have always believed that strength comes from purity, she said. We thought that keeping our bloodlines clean would keep us powerful. We were wrong. She looked at Daniel with warmth in her amber eyes. This human taught me that true strength does not come from being pure. It comes from being adaptable, from learning new things, from accepting what is different and finding value in it. She held up her hand, showing the glowing marks of their marriage binding. When Daniel and I were joined, our marks became the same. Human and Valari, sharing the same symbols on our skin. This is what our future can look like. Not two people standing apart. Two people standing together. Queen Cinereth rose from her throne. The room fell completely silent. I have ruled this empire for longer than most of you have been alive, she said. I have seen wars begin and end. I have watched stars die and new ones be born. In all my years, I have never done anything as strange as this. She looked at Daniel. When I first offered this human freedom in exchange for marriage to my daughter, I was thinking only of my own people. I wanted to save our bloodline. I did not care about humans or their future. I saw them as tools to be used. She paused. I was wrong. The words hung in the air. A Valari queen admitting she was wrong was almost unheard of. This human has shown me that strength comes in many forms. His people are young and simple compared to us. But they have something we lost long ago. Hope, determination, the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. She turned to Admiral Cole. Admiral, I ask you to sign this treaty not as a surrender, but as a promise. A promise that our peoples will learn from each other, grow with each other, build a future that neither of us could create alone. Admiral Cole stepped forward. Her face was hard to read, but there was something new in her eyes. Not friendship, not yet, but respect. I never thought I would stand in an alien palace and sign a peace treaty, she said. A year ago, I would have called anyone who suggested this a traitor. But I have learned something too. She looked at Daniel. I have learned that sometimes the bravest thing a soldier can do is not fight. Sometimes it is to put down the weapon and extend a hand. Sergeant Carter, you are a strange kind of hero. But you are a hero nonetheless. She took the pen and signed the treaty. Queen Cinereth signed beside her. The crowd erupted in cheers, both human and Valari voices mixing together. Later that night, Daniel and Kalis stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons hung in the sky, casting silver light over everything. We did it, Kalis said softly. We did, Daniel agreed. Though I still cannot quite believe it. What happens now? Daniel thought about the question. There was so much work ahead. The treaty was just the beginning. There would be problems, disagreements, people on both sides who did not want peace. Building a real alliance would take years, maybe decades. But for the first time, it seemed possible. Now we build something new, he said. Together. Kellis leaned against him. My mother wants us to have children soon. She says the future of the Empire depends on it. How do you feel about that? She was quiet for a moment. Before I met you, the idea terrified me. Having children with a human. Creating something that was neither fully Valari nor fully human. And now? She looked up at him with soft eyes. Now I think our children could be the best of both worlds. Strong and proud like Valari. Stubborn and hopeful like humans. They could be amazing. Daniel smiled. Or they could be trouble. Probably both, Kellis agreed. They laughed together. It was a small moment, but it meant everything. A year ago, they had been enemies. Now they were partners, lovers, friends. In the sky above them, a human ship passed by, heading toward the Valari orbital station. It was one of the first trade ships, carrying goods and people between the two worlds. More would follow. The galaxy was changing. Two species that had nearly destroyed each other were learning to live together. It would not be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever was. But Daniel Carter, the sergeant who became a prince, had proven something important. Humans never gave up. And sometimes, that stubborn refusal to quit could change the entire universe. As the moons rose higher and the city lights glowed below. Daniel held his wife close and looked toward the stars. The future was uncertain. It always was, but it was also bright with possibility. And that was enough.